Hour 2 of the game, Troy Coverdale, AJ Shaw with you on a Friday afternoon. Blow that work whistle. Let's get out of this joint. Oh, wait. Yeah, we've got about another 50 some odd minutes. It is what it is. By the way, just so you're aware, there is a water main break that has forced the closure of Marlatt Avenue from Browning to Sethchild Road. You're being asked to divert south to Kimball if you are traveling on Marlatt. So, enjoy that.
Not the start to the weekend, I'm sure, for those folks driving home.
Oh, man. Just one more thing in the mix, right? If you, by the way, folks, in that block of Marlatt will also have lower water pressure. So you're lucky it's not 99 today and you're looking for that shower on your way out the door, or in the door, I should say. I picked a much better version this time. A little groovier version. The tux the man is wearing is a little questionable, though.
Yeah, this is better. If Mitch is out there listening, yeah, this sounds a lot better.
That's because there's one key point to this that you'll find out in a moment. And there's no way I would go with a version other than from this man.
Oh.
I get a chance to play Ray Charles, I'm playing Ray Charles.
I tell you all this old happy day. When Jesus, yeah, when he was. When Jesus and when he was.
Taken too soon from us, I know. Yes, we get to celebrate the day. K-State fans, Coleman Hawkins, appropriately enough, not the jazz musician. He passed away in 1989, after all, the Topeka native did. There you go. There's your history note for the day.
All right, then.
Coleman Hawkins, the musician, yes, was a member of the Topeka High Band.
No kidding.
When in school. Anyway, no, this Coleman Hawkins, man, oh man, this Coleman Hawkins comes in to play some basketball for K-State this coming season. At this point, top-ranked player in the transfer portal, committing to the Cats this morning, making it clear by canceling his expected trip to LSU this weekend, having spent last weekend here in Manhattan. And then word began to trickle out about what the NIL number was involved with it as well. And again, first reported by Sharms Charnia of The Athletic, $2 million. And folks are running with that number. Multiple places are claiming it's sourced. It just is an amazing number when you think about it. And yes, while we celebrate with a little Ray and the voices of jubilation, I will flip the script and play devil's advocate coming up in a few here on the game. Because I do have a little leeriness about that 2 million number.
And you know what? You're not alone in that, my friend.
Someone's going to tell me to get off their lawn is what they're going to do.
That's a possibility as well.
But if you have not heard the news today, Hawkins committing to the K-State program, this after a career at Illinois where he averaged 8, 5, and 2. That's his career stretch. The most productive season, though, was this past one for him, 12 points, 6 boards, nearly 3 assists, and 1.5 steals per game.
I like that myself.
I can't help it. I love Ray Charles. Musically, the man was tremendous. Anyway, Hawkins' best game this past season, per the good folks at KSO. Scored 30 points against Iowa, going 9 of 11 from the field, 5 assists, 5 steals in the win over the high-paced Hawkeyes. No, it's not their football team. Just noting. Double figures 22 times last season, 20 points in 5 different games, 6 games of 8 or more rebounds, and 7 games of at least 5 assists. Defends well, is expected to be an impact player at both ends of the floor. And that comes for a K-State program that now has filled up its scholarships for the coming season. The last of the transfer portal selections is in place. And all told, 9 transfers into the K-State program going forward for this coming year. One of the things I do like about how this has structured out is that some of these transfers for K-State are guys that have more than 1 year of eligibility. Hawkins does not. He is entering in his 5th season after 4 at Illinois. That said, he again was someone who had his name in the NBA draft process, got the viewpoints of those involved with the NBA front offices, and got a good look. He knows where he wants to improve his game, and this is a coaching staff that we have talked at length that is working very hard to develop guys for the NBA and has shown that they can develop guys for the NBA over the course of their coaching stints in various other places before coming to Manhattan. Then, of course, that first year. To be able to take, at this point, the top player left in the transfer portal, just 2 weeks after he removed his name from the draft process, just ahead of the deadline, that is a very good get for K-State. NIL money or not, it's a great pickup for the Cats. And it really shows the intent of the coaching staff to make sure that they put that emphasis this year on size that can shoot.
Yep.
We talked about 3-point shooting numbers last hour for Hawkins. 6'10" and can shoot from 3. And you are talking about a team that next year barely has anyone under 6'5".
This is a very, very tall team.
Exceptionally tall team.
Yes.
Might be, dare I say, the tallest team in K-State history.
I'm not going to fact check you on that because you're probably right. I wouldn't know what would the tallest team be, but yeah, you're probably right when you say that.
When you start to figure that, and these guys have length. It's not just their general height. You're talking guys with wingspans, but they have the ability to shoot from outside for the most part as well.
Which was such a huge weakness, and we've said it repeatedly on this show, of the team last year.
I still say Tyler Perry had the utter misfortune of having to try to play point guard for much of the season when he wasn't a natural point. And the fact that the Cats found themselves with an injury, keeping them from being able to start the season with the 5 that they wanted. That's even before you get into the Naquan Tomlin stuff. And this team never was able to have the group that it was built for on the floor at any given time. Now you have some depth in areas that there was not depth last year, and some pieces that are definitely going to offer challenges to opponents to try to match up. One of the things that I always chuckled about specifically with Montana a number of years ago when I was calling games at Northern Colorado. And their own announcer laughed about it. He called them the all-airport team because they had so much height.
Yeah.
But they had 2 7-footers on their roster.
Mm-hmm.
The flaw for them was that they had one who would play traditional center.
Yeah.
But
couldn't run the floor.
But they couldn't ask the other one to do that. He wanted nothing to do with that. He wanted to be shooting from outside.
Yeah.
That said, do you know how much of a matchup problem it is to guard someone who is 6'10" on the three-point line?
Oh, it's a massive problem.
Tack on those 2 extra inches and turn him into a 7-footer?
Yep.
You have nobody. I mean, and if you, on the offensive end, run the switch on a screen, you know, you wind up with my boy Will Figures at 5'6" trying to guard
5'6", you said?
yes. Mm-hmm.
And this was at Northern Colorado.
Yeah, this was at Northern. Not to do my guy Will dirty, but I mean, he was a hard worker, but he was 5'6".
Yeah.
It just is what it is. Getting caught in a switch and having to guard a 7-footer on the perimeter was a little bit of a challenge. K-State's going to put that challenge against opponents next year. The amount of height that they're going to be able to utilize on the perimeter, not just the interior, but on the perimeter, is going to be a matchup problem this season for teams. And it again goes back to that intent to build a 5-out offense, but this coaching staff has done it in a much different way than what many of us envision the 5-out offense. It's 5-out, but with height that you don't normally see with that offense.
Yep.
And it's height that can shoot. It is going to be fun to see what this team is able to do.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And they're playing modern-day basketball. You got shooters on the floor. You got length, like you said. You got guys that can play defense. You guys that can score. You got guys that can really ball out for you. And, it's going to be a fun year, I feel.
Definitely that.
It's going to be what we were thinking last year was going to be, in a way.
And I think that there are lessons learned from recruiting for last year.
Absolutely.
And I said that before we even got into the mix of waiting to see how the transfer portal played out this year. I said it then that there were lessons that were being learned during the course of the season, and it was going to prompt adjustments in how they looked at things in the offseason, and that is exactly what happened and how they approached recruiting this year. Young staff, you learn the hard way a lot of times.
Yep.
That said, this guy sitting on my shoulder here, the devil, he wants me to say a few words the other way when we continue. Devil's advocate, next up on The Game.
You're locked into The Game on News Radio KMAN.
Well, we're going to see the devil now in Troy Coverdale, I guess.
Well, it is my time to advocate for him in this case. The Game continuing. Troy and AJ with you this afternoon. Mitch enjoying the Friday off here from the show. We're back with the full contingent on Monday for you, though. So, here's the thing. I've been around the world of sports for too long. I talked about in hour number 1 some of the numbers in terms of when sports saw their first $1 million salaries. This year, we are finding for the first time ever in college athletics, specifically in college basketball, the first $2 million man or two, depending on how the deals really lay out. But practically every report today about Coleman Hawkins coming to K-State, making his commitment, is that he will be receiving a $2 million NIL package. The world of name, image, and likeness has changed the sport. There is no doubt about it. We've now turned it into professional sports. I'm not a fan of the fact that that number, no, not the 2 million as the number itself, but the number, whatever that NIL number is. I am not a fan of that being in the public sphere for a number of reasons, but especially because we're talking about, yes, still college athletics. It's because of the pressure that it now adds to everyone involved. The vast majority of what we are talking about remain 18 to 22-year-old players.
Yep. People my age.
In Hawkins' case, yes, he is a fifth-year senior going into this coming year. But it also not only adds pressure on them, it adds pressure on the coaching staff. It makes things outsized because the moment that you've got money involved with it, the eyeballs increase, the attention increases, and people want to see return on investment. You get a hiccup during the course of a season, and the pressure is ramped up that much more because the finances are involved. I want you to consider just this past season and all of the discussions about how, at the end of the day, Hunter Dickinson's signing at Kansas with a sizable NIL number actually turned that season into a butt of jokes for K-Staters.
Yep.
Because it was nowhere near the team that it has been in the past. That investment's going to have to pay off this year for them.
Yes.
In all honesty.
Yes.
Then again, I'm also just a general critic of Hunter Dickinson's game, but that's another discussion another time. The fact remains is that we saw the pressure that it did add to KU's program last year,
mm-hmm.
and it didn't play out very well. All of it is professional as opposed to college, mm-hmm. to amateur. We've talked for years how in pro sports, it's not always the teams that pay more that win the titles.
Saw it with UConn.
I'm not even thinking college.
Yeah.
I'm thinking the New York Metropolitans of last season.
Oh, yeah.
They had the highest salary amount of any team in Major League Baseball last year.
And that season went woof.
You, of course, have the Dodgers in that spot this year,
mm-hmm.
and they're out to a tremendous start. You have the Yankees in that spot right behind them this year in terms of salary, and they're out to a tremendous start. That's all fine and good. What happens when you get them in a short series?
Yeah, they get eliminated pretty quickly.
Yeah, the money doesn't pay off.
Yankees didn't make the playoffs last year. Dodgers had a sizable payroll last year. Get swept by an 84-win team in Arizona who goes to the World Series.
It makes me curious, though, how much more intense that pressure is going to be at this level now that you put that number on one specific player. On everyone involved at this level, it's where we start to see what NIL impact, money in the game, may be on college athletics as a whole. Again, I want you to go back to some of the numbers that I brought up in hour one when talking about history of when $1 million contracts came into the specific sports professionally. I have an issue with it, or at least a trepidation with this. And I'll admit part of that leeriness just comes down to general performance. There are so many variables at play here with young athletes. Yes, we are talking about a player that is entering his 5th year, a veteran player, an older player, one who originally had himself in the NBA draft process and elected to go ahead and change things up. But then I look at those stats, and I do have concerns. The joke has been for a number of years that you can have a 250 hitter making $1.5 million easy in Major League Baseball at this point.
Yeah.
It used to be that you had to be a 300 hitter to get $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
The numbers have fallen back in that aspect. And
as batting average has become less of a, what's the word I want to use here? Less of a, I guess, necessity for teams. They're more focused on the on-base stuff and everything else.
True. And I guess you would argue in that case that batting average is a bad stat for trying to assess what a player is actually accomplishing. Yeah, I get that, but you're still, your general equation is if the guy gets you a hit 3 out of 10 times, I want him on my team.
Yeah. I mean, you're definitely, you look at it now with Luis Ariz with the Padres, how valuable a player he is, how valuable a player he was with the Marlins, how valuable a player he was with Minnesota. He's not a guy that's going to be flashy, but he gets on base and he gets hits. He hits for a high average.
But I look at what these numbers are. Again, 12 points per game, 6 rebounds per game.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, numbers at both ends of the court. And yes, we're to take into account the assessments as people have made it clear that he was the best available player in the portal at this point.
Yes.
But a $2 million NIL number to go with those stats.
Crazy.
How much does that add to the pressure?
Oh, it adds a ton of pressure. And he's coming to a team where he's playing with a lot of other guys they can score. He may not be the number one guy on the team this year. Who knows?
You bring up a point, though, that I look at that and I say, $2 million, he better be.
Yeah.
Again, I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Mm-hmm.
There are going to be those who look at that number and say exactly that. $2 million, he better be. What's my return on that investment?
Yeah.
And, of course, as a fan, you immediately think, well, it's my investment. That said, you want to see the outcome. You want to see what those numbers are. That's a tough number to justify, I think.
I agree.
But then again, I'm the old fart. I'm the guy who is sitting here looking at what NIL is doing to college athletics, and we are seeing a complete and total sea change. And it's a pendulum that I don't know will ever swing back, to be perfectly honest. In the last 2 days, we have now talked about venture capital or equity, naming rights for a conference, and a $2 million NIL package.
5 years ago, we're probably not even considering that. 10 years ago, at least.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's how quickly this has all changed.
I mean, we were talking yesterday, it feels like, about maybe we should just give them a profit of their jersey sales. Now we have multimillionaires, 20, 21-year-old kids, multimillionaires, almost, it feels like.
Unbelievable. It is an unbelievable number to me. I don't know that I'm going to get over that for a while.
Unless he plays great.
$2 million. I mean, honestly, when it got to the point that players were getting $1 million in baseball, that floored me.
Yeah.
And I was a kid. And I was a kid at the time. I'm a much more seasoned person now, and I'm looking at this at $2 million for a college athlete and going, wow.
How were you when it went to 100 million?
Oof. Anyway.
Story for another day.
Yes, exactly. Oh, but then, while we talk about $2 million for that, let's not even talk about what those Chiefs rings cost. Oh my. We'll touch on how pretty and shiny the spoils were for the Chiefs after winning that Super Bowl title. A look at the rings when we continue.
Your home for K-State sports.
Runs far side, throws, intercepted by Archer at the 40. Archer at the 30. He's going to score. Touchdown. Wildcats score with a minute 23 to go. And this place is going nuts.
Nearly 14.8 carats worth of gems, according to Jostens. The Chiefs' Super Bowl rings. 529 diamonds. None of that cubic zirconia crap. 38 rubies, because of course you have to have the red in there. And much like a season ago where they placed a little slide opening, if you will,
Yeah.
and had Arrowhead in it, this year the words inscripted Tom and Jerry. The name of the play they ran that won them the ball game in overtime over the 49ers.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
I'm still trying. 529 diamonds. This is, it is unbelievable. Speaking of numbers that are unbelievable, it's become now where the bling for these championships is unbelievable.
Well, it's better than the one ring. Well, I forgot what ring it was, but when Charlie Finley gave the A's that one year, he gave them no diamond in the ring. It looked like it came out of a Cracker Jack box.
Oh, Charlie Finley. Charlie O. The man with the orange baseball idea, the rabbit at good old Municipal, a.k.a. Muhlenbach Stadium in Kansas City. And, yes, the man who inadvertently brought us the Kansas City Royals. So, as someone pointed out, that was one of the best trades in baseball ever.
Yeah.
Charlie O for Ewing Kauffman.
Yep.
I'll take that one. That said, the Chiefs last night celebrating. They had their ring ceremony last evening, their get-together with everybody, because it was the night of the last practice as part of their 3-day mini camp that they wrapped up yesterday. More than 400 rings produced by Jostens for this.
It's a lot of diamonds.
That is a mine at that point. Third time in the last 5 years, of course, that they have won the title. And, they start talking three-peat.
Because why not?
Whew.
I know you as the Broncos fan don't want it to happen, but...
Well, but me as the Broncos fan, there's a lot of things that I want to happen and don't want to happen. I mean, that's just, oof. But when you get into it, you have to acknowledge the success and what they have been able to accomplish. And the fact that it is at a point where they have that much hardware, we're starting to essentially get the same type of a feel as what the Patriots were in the last decade. Mm-hmm. And it's now turning into the Chiefs potentially being the team of the 20s. Who would have thought that was going to happen at any time in this franchise's history?
Especially 7, 8, 9 years ago when they hadn't won a playoff game in 20-some-odd years.
I'm not kidding you. They've got Andy Reid's ring here on that they shared last night on X.
Yeah.
And for crying out loud, that's not a ring when you open that up. That's a watch.
Yeah, Good. Yeah, you're not wrong when you say that.
That is unbelievable.
I think it's huge.
Yeah. So earlier this year, the Royals did the night where they did the mock-up of the 2014 ALCS rings, champion rings. And Owen went that night because it was the Orioles that were in town, and so he got me one of the giveaway rings. It's sitting on my desk in here. Speaking of cubic zirconia. But even that is huge.
Yeah.
When you really put that on your finger and realize that is huge.
I'll admit I've worn it once.
I'm going to have to hide the dang thing now. Serious. They said it was inscripted with Tom and Jerry. No, it's inscripted with essentially the play route.
Wow.
In other words, there are parts to this ring that essentially are each of the players running the play.
Okay, that is something I've never seen before in a championship ring.
Almost like, miniature bone-shaped or, just little pegs, essentially. Yeah. And but they're meant to be the trophy, now that I get a good look at them. But the point being is that they're set up in the formation for that play and the route of how it plays out. That's funky. That is different. But how do you get that in there on a ring? Well, first of all, you got to make it about the size of a watch.
Exactly. I mean, those rings in the next few years, they may be even bigger than that one. I mean, in comparison to the early, sometimes I'll just go on the internet and I'll look up the championship rings from the 60s, from the first Super Bowl with the Packers. Nowhere in comparison. We mentioned Charlie O with the A's ring. Nowhere in comparison to the one that the Chiefs were presented with last evening.
It really does amaze me that over the course of time we have progressed to where those rings have become such a piece of the reward for success, when guys in those days, they were a great tchotchke. They weren't anything dramatic in terms of their honors. It's part of why Charlie O didn't put a diamond in him, besides the fact he was a cheap son of a...
True.
Yeah, but you get the point. You understand what I'm saying. And, it's interesting. Just very, very interesting how that has progressed as well, to the point that, a ring that includes effectively 11 quote-unquote football players in formation. And you just flip it open.
Yep.
And look. Oh, boy. 5:52. Back to wrap up this edition of the game in a moment.
Miss any of the show? Check out the Game podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and of course, NewsRadioKMAN.com. You're listening to The Game on News Radio KMAN.
All right, Troy, since Sunday is Dad's Day, what's that one quirky or weird thing your dad does?
Quirky or weird thing that my dad does. Quirky, we'll go with, and granted, it's an ancient thing at this point. That man took 3 different back ends of pickups to keep an old 66.5 Ford 4x4 running.
Wow.
For close to 30 years.
It is incredible.
Literally, when the first bed started to go bad, he brought the next one on, got another one used, and he did all the welding for it.
Wow.
And I just found it very quirky because who would go through the time, energy, and effort to do that more than once?
Exactly.
For that pickup.
Exactly.
For that pickup. Of course, I had a stereo that the cassette deck on it went bad, which tells the age of the... So what did we do? We replaced the stock AM radio in his pickup with that stereo.
Really?
Which, think about in the 90s, one of those name brandish stereos, the black face. Yeah, completely looked out of place. It was the newest thing in that pickup, the fanciest thing in that pickup.
And he pulled it out.
By a long shot. By a long shot.
I got to say, the weird thing my dad does is when we're over at breakfast, and he has like pancakes or waffles or French toast or whatever, he sticks his hand in a glass of water. And I'm thinking to myself, what? Why would you do that? And he says, well, I'm just trying to get the syrup off. And
oh, geez.
My mom's like, Mark, don't do that. You look like uncivilized. And yet he still does it. And then sometimes he'll dunk it in the coffee.
Oh, man.
And I ask him why he does that, and he says, well, it makes the coffee taste better. So, yeah, that's the quirky thing. But in all seriousness, we mean well with this segment, as Father's Day is on Sunday.
Hard to believe, but yeah.
Yep.
Means the summer's reeling away pretty quick, too. We're back at it on Monday. Another edition of the game comes your way at 4 that afternoon. We out.